Shepherding Chaos, the Retail 247 podcast. Embracing change in the world of retail tech.
Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Shepherding Chaos. I'm Alan Morris and today I'm joined as always by CEO, founder and El Presidente of Retail 247, Martin Schofield, and our special guest is Matt Bradley.
Special guest.
Special guest. Yeah. You better be special, Matt. You've got to live up to this now.
You've called a lot worse.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. So, Matt, let's talk about you because we've talked about me and Martin in the past. So, give us a bit of background. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm the event director of the Retail Technology Show, which we launched for the first time. I suppose we relaunched it for the first time earlier this year in April. And it's an exhibition and a conference for suppliers of retail technology to the retail sector. So I've been involved in exhibitions for around 20 years. I trained as an actor actually. So I did. Okay. I trained as an actor and a dancer.
Come on, it
is a video podcast.
Yeah, set yourself up.
It didn't work out. But I started. My father owned nightclubs in London, so I started doing a bit of work with him, and I started running events for companies that wanted to have Christmas parties and socials and stuff like that. And I ended up just meeting a company and that I'd run an event for, and they said, would you fancy coming to work running bigger events? And I was at the sort of time of my life where I didn't want to work with my dad forever, and I had no idea about what exhibitions were or anything, and I joined this company and we ran a show from the Business Design Centre in Islington, and we ran it once and it didn't run again. And it was around sort of interior for homes and stuff. And then, over the years I worked for big companies and smaller companies. I lived over in Ireland for a while and ran some shows over there. And then eventually came back and launched what was then called RBTE, Retail Business Technology Expo, in 2000. Well, we started running it in 2010, but it didn't actually happen until 2011. And I've been in this business running the retail tech shows in various guises for I think 10, 11 years now. Yeah. Quite a long time.
So what is it, is there something special about tech shows and technology that makes you sort of, because you have been in it a while and you're obviously well known for what you do, so is that it now? Retail tech shows is your speciality?
To be honest, I think it's definitely my speciality. It's to be honest, when I first sort of started it with two business partners, I knew nothing, and to be honest, I think you're a bit strange if you're in the retail tech industry and you already know stuff about it. I'm not got nothing to do with the industry. I'm just a hobby. It's a bit odd. And I genuinely just thought, I don't know, there's tills and that's it, isn't it? And I think once you come into the industry and after a few months, you're just absorbed by it, and it's almost impossible now to walk into any store and not immediately sort of trying to eyeball what technology they got, who they're using. That doesn't work very well. So you do sort of fall in love with it very quickly. And I think when COVID hit and exhibitions really took a pace in. And there was a moment, there was a time when I just thought, I'm probably going to have to do something else here, and that was quite daunting. And I didn't know what it was going to be. And to be honest, it felt natural to stay, rather than the exhibition world, into the retail tech world. So I think I'm probably here for life now. I'm a lifer.
So go back to the first show then. In 2011. What was that like? What was on display? What stood out the most?
Firstly, it was in Earls Court, which isn't even here anymore. So that just shows how much has changed. It was.
Was that? Remind me of that. Is that? Because my memories of the first sort of shows are back in Birmingham.
That's Retail Solutions. Retail Solutions.
Was that a completely separate thing, or was that
completely separate? That was a completely separate thing, and actually it was really quite interesting. And Retail Solutions have been very successful for 25 odd years.
It was kind of a trip away, though.
I think it kind of just. I don't know the full details. I wasn't part of that business, but the feedback that I've got from various people that I've spoken to over the years was it just got a bit stagnant, and it hadn't really moved on. And actually, I think it was probably at a time where technology was moving a lot slower than it would be today. And but I think they finished in 2007. So when we launched in 2011, something had changed in the industry, which was the launch of the iPhone. So retail had completely transformed. Tech within retail completely transformed, and from and I suppose even then, when I went on the first couple of shows, the power was still in the retailers' hands, and the retailers were pushing
to
they were pushing to. This is how we insist you shop. This is how we advise you shop. This is what the technology you should be using. Come to the show this year, it's totally changed.
Yeah.
The consumer has the power. They say, well, this is how I shop next door, so I demand I shop in here. And so that sort of twist of power has been really, really interesting to see.
Definitely.
And certainly the type of people that visited the show back in 2011 were very much IT professionals. It was very IT. Operations were in there a lot. And now they still come, obviously, to the show. They're still a massive part of our audience. But we have so many more marketeers now. And it's sort of fallen into that job function just as much as in the IT industry as well, because retailers now realise without the technology we're not reaching our customers, and that then becomes a marketeer's role. So I think it's been really, really interesting to see how the industry has transformed over 10 years. And I remember back in 2011 a guy called Jeff Barraclough, who was former BT Expedite.
Yes, I
remember Jeff?
Yeah.
I remember him doing a thing on Twitter or LinkedIn or something where he said, I'm going to try and just use contactless for the day. I'm going to let you know how I get on. And he said it was really tricky in some places, and it didn't really work, and the trains didn't, I get stuck at the barriers and stuff. It took a while for it to open and things. And I just think, God, I get frustrated now if my contactless doesn't work. What? I have to put the card in? Well, for God's sake.
I was a bit of a laggard in that world, but I'm now completely. All I take is my phone anyway these days.
Yeah, me too. I never take a wallet anyway.
Keys.
Nice. Well, I've heard that about you, Alan.
Yeah, that's very true. Man. Well, I've just always been very lucky that people want to buy me drinks and stuff. It's great. So it's interesting you talked about how the profile of people who come to the shows is changing. I mean, obviously, technology before, as we were talking before we came on air, technology used to be very much a supporting role in retail, but now it's a lot more centre stage, and it should be right on the agenda of every boardroom in retail across the world, not only just in this country. But you still think there's still a bit of catching up to do in terms of more retailers, not people who work in the IT department in retailers, but more merchandisers, buyers, retail ops people coming along to the shows.
Yeah, I think that's every year we set ourselves new targets, and we're always trying to increase the overall number, but specifically we're trying to increase that retail number. It's always been a relatively tough industry to crack, and I can't give you an answer as to why. I'd probably, if I found that out, I'd probably retire. But it's notoriously been quite a difficult industry to engage properly with, and I think we've tried to build a model that is it's free to attend. I genuinely think our conference program is up there with any paid-for conference program that's out there, and so we have the very best suppliers of tech from across the world, and it's not just the big guys, the big guys inverted commas. It's all those sort of smaller, interesting companies that have developing things in small offices or in their bedrooms or anything like this. That's a sort of real lifeblood, I think, of the show. It really helps, because I know that retailers are really keen to sort of see what's new and what's interesting out there. So the aim will always be to encourage and get more retailers there, and we are obviously looking at ways that we can do that. A lot of it's through sort of technology and understanding how we reach a market, which it's
depends what you mean by retailers. I mean, there are those that buy as merchandise, as you mentioned, Alan. They give them a spreadsheet, they're happy, the greatest respect. There's not necessarily front of mind for them to look at new technology options.
No, but should the point I'm making is, should that actually be the case? Given the spreadsheet and they're happy, which is the same as when we all started. You just gave a merchandiser a Lotus one, or a finance person a Lotus 1, 2, 3 spreadsheet as opposed to Excel, and they were happy. Well, surely by now, with people's knowledge of technology and how it affects them as customers and translating how they feel with other retailers, what they need to know, shouldn't shouldn't they be actually pushing to go to more of these things to actually widen their experience? I mean, when you were at Harvey Nichols, I mean, how many people from the business actually went to the shows?
None that I recall. I suppose I've got two trains of thought. I agree with what you said, but equally, I suppose that's a few years ago, tech was my job sort of thing. So I didn't want everybody to come up with their own ideas. It was down for us to lay down an IT strategy, and to form that strategy, my internal consultation would have been a key part. So a free-for-all for technology, we'll have that one, that one, and that one, and retail's hard work.
Do you think CIOs might feel like that now?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, it's a fine balance, isn't it, between adopting the next shiny thing versus having a sort of coherent IT strategy, and I think it's a
I guess
all input's good.
And I think it is, isn't it? If you're putting your name next to something and saying this is going to be big, or we should invest heavily in this, and Apple was a great one with the biometrics, and everyone went mad for biometrics.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to be a thing. I know Amazon are still trying to push the sort of biometrics payment and things like that, and everyone went biometrics crazy. And then within the next model of Apple launching the next phone, they went, "No, we're taking that function away now." And all these retailers went, no, hold on. Yeah. You have to be quite brave, I suppose, as a CIO saying, well, I believe this is going to be the trend for the next 10 years, and this is where a lot of the issues around the legacy systems have come in as well.
I mean, it's probably not for this podcast, Alan and I have talked about it before, but most retailers have got a lot of work to do just to do the basics, and the technology around having the basics of retailing we've talked about before is occupying their day job really.
No.
So it's again a balance of what's new versus being able to deliver that.
I wonder if suppliers have got a bigger part to play in helping to attract people to the show to work with you by actually maybe saying, rather than when I think back to my time at Retail Assist, the first show we did was back in the NEC, Retail Solutions, and we basically we started in '99, I think it was in '99 2000, and we shared a stand with someone, and basically we got out we got some marketing stuff together. We just stood there waiting for people to come, and when they came on stand, we tried to sell them what we were doing. And some of my one of my co-founders was extremely sceptical about doing this because it was expensive for a startup business, as we were back then. It was expensive. And we actually made a sale at the stand to Ottica's Books, came in and actually outsourced our IT to us as a result of that. They're not there and then signed the deal, because that never happens. But it was then
First contact.
But I think
that's the thing that we talk about return on investment, but what is the return on investment? Is it a sale? That's the basics of it. But it isn't that cut and dry with this industry. It's that touch point again. It's that or that introduction to the right lead or something like that. And I've always said that when I first sort of started launching this, and I was doing mainly sales. If you could tell me that Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, IBM, Toshiba and Fujitsu, and the person that I need to sell to would be all in the room at the same time, I'm running through hot coals to get into that room. And that's the sort of message we push out to our exhibitors, to say, look, if you're not sure, give us who you're trying to target, and we'll tell you if they're coming or not. And if you think they're coming, why are you not there? Because if it was me, I'm going to be there, because if there's any chance I can get just a handshake with someone who then finally speaks to me for a minute, then that for me is a return on investment. But people measure it in lots of different ways, and it is return on investments of events and exhibitions. It's very difficult to sort of to pin down. But a lot of people come with that sort of. There are a lot of people that come and think, I'm going to be a millionaire by the end of this 2 days, and you think, okay, I'm not sure. And then you get the others that are sort of a bit more sort of steady heads that say, this is just about branding. This is about opportunity, demos, and all of that. And of course, I'd love people to be writing deals at the show. It's not likely to happen,
but I do think suppliers have to actually make their pitch more interesting and more engaging and more relevant to the retailer than just saying, this is our stand, this is what we've got to sell for you. You've got to actually go that bit further and actually show it in like a practical example. And I think the conference streams that you do, where somebody gets the opportunity to stand up and talk, to bring their stuff to life and become anecdotal, that's got to be
it does, it works. I mean, we have quite a strict rule on that, in that you can apply to speak. We don't charge people to speak. It's content over cash. You have to have a retailer speaking with you. We then have an advisory board of retailers, and we then order the call for papers. We send them over to them and say that this is the title, this is the retailer speaking. Is that something you want to hear? And they just tick. And it's basically the ones that get selected are the ones that go into the programme.
Okay, never thought
so
about
it's
that.
not really. I mean, I promise you, I've had
You
lots
got more
of
demands than the slots.
Oh god, yeah, yeah.
You better put that away. Put it away now.
Yeah, well, the company doesn't take bribes, so I'm very I'll never be the company there. But
We
yes,
only bribe you to dance.
yeah, that would take a lot. So yeah, it has been always, the content has been key, and having a retailer sort of, because people fear sales pitches.
Yeah.
They really do. And I've known exhibitors before that have gone, look, Matt, you know I'm not a sales pitch, you know that I'm not going to pitch, you know I just can't get a retailer to speak about it at the moment because it's so new and they haven't tried it enough. And I said, look, it's not you as a person, it's just if they see your brand, I'm not going to say names because they'll say, I never did that. But if you see a supplier's brand, they'll immediately think, well, that's a sales pitch. But if you see a supplier brand and then a retailer brand next to it, they'll go,
it's
okay,
giving information.
Okay. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so yes, we do try and control that. We've got an excellent conference producer, Carl, who he worked freelance for us and he's been phenomenal. And as I said, the conference program I genuinely would put up against any paid for program, and I'm hoping he's going to do just as good a job next year as well.
So, Martin, with Retail 247, what's your view on attending a conference? I mean,
Nice, thanks, Alan.
yeah, cheers, Matt.
No, good question. I mean, there's many thoughts. Actually, what Matt just said about the example of having everybody in a room, that resonates quite well. So that's a good argument. Good subtle sales pitch.
Yes.
Because it is exactly that. It's opportunity. You're never going to quantify a sale or something that's tangible, but it's about contributing to the long-term growth and brand awareness, I suppose. What else do I think? The social side is very important. I mean, there is that piece to it. Within the room as such, and events afterwards, and that's always a good thing. I suppose I've been to a lot of these shows from the other side of the coin, and
Well, you were on our advisory panel and you
I've been to it a long time ago, actually. I don't think I did that much, but yeah, thanks to that. I think I was busy at Hominix at the time, but yes, I'm always available. What was I saying? Yes, so as a small supplier, you've got to get over that hurdle of not wanting to be down that slight side street, and that's the difficult thing for me. It's about what's affordable that's actually going to have some sort of impact. And that's the only thing I decide on. Logically, apart from the cash and the value, which I'm sure is good value, it's just about having the right spot and being able to afford the right spot.
Yeah, what I found interesting this year's show is the innovation.
The
discovery zone. I actually
Was in there this time around?
We have done it before, but there was a lot more attention on it this year, and we also had a startup safari as well, where you had tours curated and taken around. It was people always say, so tell us about your role. What's your job? And it's not science, but what it is my job truly is just create a story. Yeah. That's it. I just create stories, and it's got to be a story that is exciting enough that somebody goes, I'll come out of my office and go look at that. Yeah. That is it. If I can do that, then my job is done. And I do that through conference programs, but I also do it by highlighting some of the innovative solutions and companies that you probably aren't really aware of.
Yeah.
I can market the fact that the big guys are there and the bellwethers are there and they're all. Yeah. But the thing that really excites people that will actually go, okay, that I need to see, is giving that sort of drip feeding that information about. You are not going to see this anywhere else. This is something very exciting. Yes, exactly. These guys, you're probably ignoring these people's phone calls every day because you haven't got time to take 55 salespeople's calls. But I'm just going to give you the very best. So I think there is that sort of fear of, well, we haven't got 100 meters, we're not going to stand out. But actually, I found over the last few years of running this that the smaller niche companies that are just exciting and sexy, and the innovation of the year. So the show, the stand that won the innovative product of the year was on a 2x2. They probably paid 1,500 quid.
Yeah.
Whereabouts that was that?
They were in one of the side bits. And to be honest, it was all because they'd entered and we'd sent all the stuff to our advisory board pre-show, and they had looked at it and gone, okay, that, and it was that they'd won by a mile. We obviously know that going on site. All of their stuff got lost on transit.
Right.
So their stand was actually empty as well. People were like, how did this company won the best show?
What was it?
I can't remember now. I can't remember on the top of my head. But yeah, they were called Day Rise.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they were called Day Rise. Yeah, and and you get obviously the big companies that they obviously send in their stuff, and they get close. You know, they get a lot of votes, but we don't send to our advisory panel the size of stand they take or how much they've invested, because that wouldn't be right.
Yeah.
So we just say, this is a solution. What do you think? Yeah, that one won by a mile.
Yeah, I think the sense of it, there is a tendency now for smaller businesses to get a lot more airtime than it ever used to be. I mean, I remember, the time, the most frustrating things when you do a sales pitch to somebody when you've just started your business and you know you've got something really good for them, and you go up and you get down to the last tier and you're being compared with a really big company, and in the end they go, I'm sorry, we're going to go with a really big company. Do you remember Alder's department store?
Yeah.
They're no longer here, so I can say this. They came to RA. We pitched for them to outsource their stuff to us. We literally been going 18 months. And we just won Adam's Children's Wear, and they came along and they kept coming back, and we got down to the last two, and it was us and a large tech company that I won't mention. And in the end, they said, we really want to work with you, but we're not going to be able to. And we was, why? And they said, because you're too small. I thought, well, technically we're bigger than we were 6 months ago when we started talking.
Look at the growth percentage.
Still too small. Yeah.
I think that has changed though. I think the willingness, or they hope that you found something new and exciting. It's outweighed the size these days.
But I think also with solutions rather than services, particularly with solutions, we are far more, as consumers of solutions ourselves, far more aligned to this app culture, where you download an app on your mobile phone, a pedometer or whatever it might be, you use it for 6 weeks, and I say to you, I've got one here, look, it's even better, and you go, yeah, actually I'll delete that one, I'll download that. And the fundamental thing is you can do that, but you make far more snap decisions, but you're making snap decisions on something smaller, because those things will only be relevant for a while. But the underlying plumbing that actually checks how many steps you've done, that never changes, because that's in the core infrastructure. And for me, the perfect model for any retailer, going back to your point, Martin, about retailers struggling to get to the level, the basics, you've really got to have that underlying basic level of product, price, stock, and then you can build on your app culture.
I think that's, people often ask me about where's the importance and stuff like that, and real-time inventory has really sort of rocketed over the last few years because of the increase in online and people click and collect and everything like that, and understanding where stock is at a certain time in its sales cycle or anything like that is vital for a retailer to run effectively and efficiently. And I've seen the rise of RFID has always RFID had always been there and there and about. It's like, is it our turn now? And maybe now, maybe it is, maybe the day is coming.
Yeah. Well, we've been talking because the Retail 247 have an RFID solution, and we've been talking about the future of that, and it's sort of. People see it as very much an inventory management tool, but I see it, and Martin sees it now, that it's more than that, because once you've got that tag in there, you can actually really ramp up the customer experience, because it's not just helping the accuracy of the stock. You pick up an item and a big screen comes in front of you that suddenly shows your item and a load of complementary products. Now previously, you're right, that has been around for years, but it's been too expensive. But now it's more affordable.
Totally. And I think the signage, again, you just alluded to signage, and that's really come along. Used to be, it was all sort of advertising point, that was its point, was to sort of promote other things, but now it's interactive and now it's engaging and it can improve on the customer experience. I think those two hand in hand are really, really effective in sort of helping the customer. And look, the customers are a very difficult thing to nail. That personalisation is very, very, very hard to succeed in, because let's say I am one person. I'm on an island. I am just one man.
There's actually, he's got 5 people behind him. He goes on to
here. I may go into Charles DeWitt. Say I'm on the way here and I've got coffee on this shirt, and I think, right, well, I can't have this. So I'll run into Charles DeWitt, and I want a shirt very quickly. And my focus at that point is I need it quick, I need it in my size, and I need to get out of here because I'm going to be late for this meeting. Now I might go in 3 days later and think, there's that guy that's always in a rush, let's make sure. And I might want to buy a £1,500 suit. And I want time, and I want people to go...
Remember the service.
And it's like, well, we can't figure out what he wants. 1 minute he wants it quick, then he wants it slow. And I'm just, as I said, one person. Imagine trying to understand consumer behaviour. I think it's a really difficult challenge for retailers.
It is. I absolutely agree with you. When you look at the whole personalisation stuff, it's a great story to talk about, and technology will enable you to do it. But the reality is, humans are all different, and we can we fit a particular MO one day and completely different the other day. I remember years and years ago when I first went freelance, I worked for Olympus Sport, and they brought a consultancy company in to do some customer profiling, so they could really focus the business on the type of customer. And they had a female customer and a male customer, and they produced a whole MO of what they did, what newspapers they read, the things they liked, and it never got implemented. The reason it never got implemented is because everybody's different. You have 67 million people in this country. You've got 67 million different perspectives on life. So how can you possibly accommodate it?
And there's also a fear of the sort of Netflix personalisation means you're seeing such a small window of recommendations. You're missing out on so much more. I mean, there's not many recommendation sites better than Netflix. They have absolutely nailed it, and there's a trust from us as a consumer to go, well, if Netflix say I'm going to like it, there's a good chance I'm going to like it. But if you go onto sort of another website and they say, well, people that bought this might with that, don't bother me with all of that.
Amazon's the worst of that.
Well, I did see one with Amazon. There was a hammer, and the people that also bought those products was balaclavas.
And ladders.
And swag bags.
That's some techie team having a joke somewhere in the background.
It is,
So I'm still back on what makes a show. Do you think would you intermingle the small players with the big players more? I've got memories of walking at NRF, for example, a big show, and you're at an entry level there, and you're still you're in zone C, and you're inside. There's just basically a row of blokes sat on chairs, and
if they can get chairs, you'll be lucky.
So it's kind of not wanting to get involved in that area, but somehow being part of the masses.
It's being totally honest. Commercially, it's difficult because the people that are paying the bigger money want the prime spots, which are normally all around each other. So it's quite hard to then say, well, actually, I'll siphon off a small part of that stand, and and for the look and feel of the show, it looks a lot better. And I think also there is a case to be had that if you put the small guys together, if people are looking at the innovation concept, and if people want to sort of focus on that, and I think a lot of the retailers, the big guys, they know very well. They know that they speak to them on a weekly basis, no doubt. So they'll walk in and they'll have they'll time with them and they'll speak. But I've always found that they sort of tend to navigate over to the
smaller sites,
into the smaller sites, because that's where there's things, that stuff they don't know about is. But no, I have looked in how we can do that, and it's. I think there's a part of me that wants to do an IKEA concept. Where you sort of have to walk around. I've thought if that would work. Well, like the casino theory, isn't it? In Vegas, to get to your hotel room, you've got to actually walk through the casino. So whether I plonk everything at the front, if you want to get to the exciting
stuff. A glass of wine at 5 o'clock.
That's a bit early for that.
How do you? Because obviously, when you're a tech supplier, like a solution supplier, you're always looking for ways you can innovate your product to make sure that it can, as much as possible, keep up with the demands of the clients and the prospects. So, what do you do every how do you develop the concepts?
I think talking. Really, I'm very close to the industry, so whether that's through suppliers or whether that's to retailers, whether that's, we're developing our advisory board for 2023 now, and we're expecting around 40 to 50 people to be on that, so that's some real intel there. And then we'll run a couple of round tables just for those advisory panel, which will be probably the first 15 to 20 minutes will be like, you attended the show, what do you want to see more of, what do you want to see less of, and then the rest of it is just go, right, just what's your problems? what's going on in the industry, what are you struggling with, where's your priorities, and then we've got people that just scribble down absolutely everything, and then we'll build out the conference program around that sort of feedback. We're speaking to retailers. I've got my conference team speaking to them today, to visitors that came last year. So we do, it's a lot about research, and then obviously speaking to you guys as well. We even just off, before we were recording, we're just sort of sharing little bites and stuff like that, and it just, those little things just sit in your mind, and you start building out from there.
What about looking sort of outside of what the advisory board tell you? Because I think advisory boards are great, and but sometimes it's a little bit, we can tell you what we know. So what's your biggest problem? My biggest problem at the moment is this, as opposed to stuff you could be doing that you might not be doing that actually
probably not yet aware of.
Not yet aware of, to build it in to freshen the
concept. That's why the advisory board is important, but it's not the one and only. But it's important because we have a very different range of job titles, different range of retailers. So we'll have grocery, we'll have fashion, we'll have cosmetics and things like that, and then we'll have IT, and we'll have marketing, and then we'll have online e-commerce, and so we try and have a mixture around that, so that the issues they're discussing are actually very personal to their role and retailer. So we are getting quite a lot from that, but also there's industry press, there's industry events, even the things that you run that we attended earlier in the year. Things like that are great for sort of getting those snippets of knowledge. And then also the suppliers are really good as well. I've got a really good relationship with the suppliers, and it's everyone in the world thinks they can do this job. Every person I speak to, you know what you should do, which is better. And you think, okay, and I don't think I've ever gone into a retailer and gone, you know what you should be doing better, or I've gone into a supplier and gone, you know what you should. But and you know what though, I'm absolutely fine with that, because I want the industry to care about this show. I want them to have input into it and feel that it's a show for them. I'm just representing an industry, really. Whatever their feedback is vital to me.
It's interesting what you've just said there about the fact that I've never gone into a retailer and said this is what you should do, and you're right, and I've worked supplier side 99% of my career now, and I've never gone in and said what you should do.
You've done it afterwards.
I've done it with you, that's different. But I've done it after. But I think there should be more of that. I actually do think there should be more of that, because I sometimes think there's a bit of inertia in retail, and you look at. If I think back, the first project I ever did when I worked at Foster Menswear was we rewrote suite of Monday morning management reports. And basically I had to go around and talk to all the key stakeholders to say, what do you want? And we had best sellers reports, we had worst sellers reports, we had product contribution reports, and all this stuff that basically came out of their output, that came out on listing paper. And yet, I still go into retailers towards the end of my time with Retail Assist. We're talking about data and using business objects or something, so board or something along those lines. They say, so what are you looking to do? And you think you're looking to do exactly the same stuff. Because basically all we've done is we've taken paper and made it on a screen. What about the stuff you really, where do your insights come from? So these are our insights. No, the insights are things you don't know, because actually you need to be looking at a whole load of stuff you're not currently looking at, because you're too fixed in your approach of the way you've always operated.
That's almost back to the point Matt made earlier about being consumer-led more than we ever used to be. So it's about what app is in favour, what payment methods in favour, what.
But then shouldn't the supplier have? If I was a retailer, maybe I would want my supplier to come in and tell me what I should be looking at, as opposed to what I should be doing.
Totally, I think because they're not just paying for your solution; they're paying for your expertise. And we've got a sales team, and they're phenomenal. The team that we have that do the sales, and they're very more consultative in that they're not afraid to say no to people. I've seen them say no to people. People have said, "Oh, we'll sponsor the bar because we want branding," and it's an awkward conversation. But you have to say to someone, "I don't know if your brand's
turned down for the bar."
I'm not sure your brand's well known enough to just put your logo up there. I think people will need to know a bit more about you. So you need to have a look at: is there some education piece that we can be doing with you? Because with due respect, to be honest, there's very few logos in this world that people just instantly know and go, well, I know that brand and I can associate what they do. The McDonald's M is very obvious, the Apple and things like that. But we've had companies go, let's put my logo there. You're like, you're going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so we do try to sort of steer people into making sure they make the right choices. And it's those conversations can be awkward, but
yeah, they can. But I think that's the difference. That's when a supplier becomes a partner.
Yeah.
It's actually when you do feel as if I've got airtime that I can actually challenge the way you do stuff. Even though you look at me and go, you're an IT guy, what do you know about retail? You think actually, I work with 30 different retail companies. I've got 30 different perspectives. You've got one. So yeah, basically, maybe you should.
And I have to say, whenever we've run any sort of roundtables, and we always, the longest part of it is when it finishes and the retailers get to chat to each other.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, God, these guys are like, I've watched major high street competitors exchange ideas and go, oh, we're trying that at the moment, I'll let you know how it goes. And you're thinking, actually, they are an industry that is desperate for information. They're desperate for guidance, and a roadmap or a route to market, things like that. And they share these sort of things. So I don't think suppliers would be too off by saying to them, we can help you, and maybe you should consider doing something like this. I think it's. I always say to the sales team, you don't go into a restaurant and the waiter brings out all the food. The first thing he asks is, what do you want? What is it you like? And you've got to approach sales like that. And if you're doing that, then I think you hold the position where you can say to someone, I think you're making the wrong decision here, I think you should do this. But if you are just going in and saying, this is what you need and this is how it's going to prove you, then I can see why people go, well, actually.
Yeah, well, exactly. Because if you go in the only advice you ever give is stuff you've got to say.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a bit narrow. Okay, one final topic I decided to talk to you about then is the metaverse, or whatever it ends up being called, and whether it ends up being anything at all. This whole sort of immersive experience. Yeah, so technically we could travel the world and we could go to wherever we want to without actually leaving our own house. What impact's that going to have on your particular speciality?
Obviously, it's hard to say. The one thing I would say is over the last few years we've been able to experiment what it's like to do these things without face-to-face and personal interaction, and it didn't work.
No, it's not the same.
It didn't work. We all got Zoom fatigue, and my managing director Alison Jackson once said to me, when they opened the pubs, no one had any more Zoom quizzes.
No.
People just went,
it's very true.
Let's go out. And I think that's the same. This year was probably for me the most enjoyable show that I've ever run in 20 years, because there was such a feeling of we can't wait to get back in front of people, and I think we would have had to go a long way to muck that one up, to be honest, because there was this pent up frustration and we've got to get out, we want to see each other. Technology had changed, the retailers had gone through probably the worst couple of years of their lives, so there was a real need. That hopefully I'll make it good news for the show. Yeah. So and I remember when I always have to make an announcement that the show's opening. And you do it, it's 9 a.m. and the Retail Technology Show is now open. And I did it this year, and for the first time ever, and I get the frog in my throat when I think about it now, the whole exhibition started cheering. You could hear it, and there was this, wow, that's a really...
so it's a nice vote.
It was a lovely moment, and I think that just goes to show that the importance of face-to-face interaction. So, I think the metaverse, we will obviously keep a very close eye on it, and I'm sure there'll be ways that we will use it in order to enhance our offering, but I don't think it will ever come in that will replace what we do.
Yeah, I agree. It's supplementary at best. Within my lifetime, I've done these things completely virtually, and you've wandered around, you did a little avatar, and it's just a bit false still, isn't it? You can't beat that face to face and the social interaction that comes with it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
And I think the really encouraging thing for me, because the idea of people coming together, that's when you really get some great sparky ideas when people come together. You miss it in an office environment, because even a conversation over the coffee machine or something, you learn so much. And people say, but of course times are changing, but it's not just people of the length of time certainly this industry we've got, it's younger people want to actually interact as well. My son works for my eldest son works for a large tech company, and so he's been working remotely more or less since the end of university. And now that he can get out there and start meeting, he absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
And you thought, well, he's going back to, it's something relatively new to him still, because it's old for us, but he's had the whole Zoom and Teams thing, but he's saying now that work is so much more fulfilling now. You can actually get out, not every day, you sort of wake up on a Monday morning and you think, oh God, I've got to be in London by 8 o'clock, and I'm going to be there.
Yeah, that's changed big time.
That's changed, and that's good that that's changed, but actually you still need to come out. We could have done this remotely, but it's a lot better to come out.
Definitely, and I think your son is a really good example for people sort of starting out their careers and stuff. I learned so much from being in the office. Just so, like you say, the water cooler moments where people are going, the people starting out in their careers are missing out on so much by not overhearing, being involved in meetings and things like that. And I just think, as a business, my show is run by a company called 19 Group. Everyone's back in the office. Yeah. I think we have one person who works remotely, and she lives quite far away. But everyone else is back in the office full time. Yeah. And so
through their choice.
But you know what? I think certainly at the start, I think that a few people thought the novelty's worn off of coming back into the office now. But we've noticed, certainly our sales figures and everything like that, as a company, are so much more effective and so much better when people are in the office. And I think it's actually a very good, fun place to work. So, and they sort of balance the work social thing very, very well, in the fact that there's always drinks on a Friday and there's lots of things that people going out and stuff like that. So I don't think people mind it too much, actually.
No, I think absolutely. It's going to be a balance, and I commute quite a long way, and now it feels like an awfully long way away. That I used to do it 5 days a week.
I know.
But 2-3 mix of days is perfect.
It is. But the whole. For a business to be successful, you've got to have some good products and some good services. But actually, the most important thing is people. Especially when you're in the market, and part of what you do is actually selling what you do. You've got to, because people buy people, don't they? And you've got to have that culture in your business, which is good that you've got it. I can see it in absolute bucket loads here. There's a really close-knit team community here. I remember when Martin first started the business, and we were competitors, but I was one thing we've got over them is we've got this great culture. They can't have that because it's unique to us, but it's really good to see it here as well, because I think that makes a massive
huge. Well, our CEO is culture obsessed, absolutely obsessed, and he bangs the drum of culture on a hourly basis. But he's right. He's right, and he's created a very good culture there of people that want to come to work and want to succeed, and the business is flourishing thanks to that, I think. So
basically, we might go into the metaverse for some things, but we'll always end up going to the pub.
Good finish.
Right. Well, thanks for your time.
I'd like to say one last thing, which is I've done podcasts before, and my daughter's listened to all of them, and she said you never mention my name, so I'm going to say this one's for Darcy.
Well, there you go. That's very nice. Lovely.
You're welcome, Darcy.
Right.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Shepherding Chaos, the Retail 247 podcast. Join us next time for more